River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Niner Nuts. I am Dan here along with James and Eric above me. How are we doing, guys?
Doing great,
What's
Dan.
up, everybody?
And yes, we are finally talking about free agency 2 weeks in. I don't care. We now have a full list of people to talk about, which is quite a bit to cover. So we're just going to dive right into it. Happy Friday, by the way, y'all, while I pull this up. So I have this divided into two sections. I do have who we signed off the street, who we retained, and then also, if I can change that, who we lost, who was on our roster, and then who we outright released. I personally think we should start with these gentlemen here, address the elephant in the room, especially with the released players. Sorry, the brain fart. We released Isaiah Oliver, which at least to me was not remotely surprising. And then we released our longest tenured player. We drafted him in the first round of 2015. Arik Armstead. We asked him to take a pay cut, and he did not want to take a pay cut this time, did not want to restructure. So we released him, and now he has signed a contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars. On top of that, we also lost, as you see, Joseph Day, Young, Oren Burks, McLeod, Pryor, Farrell, Darnold, Kinlaw, and backup tight end Warner. Javon Kinlaw, as you know, was also a first-round pick. Sealan Farrell, not a first-round pick for us, but a first-round pick nonetheless. And Chase Young, also a first-rounder. I don't remember about Joseph Day. I don't think he was. But no, I mean, honestly, just I knew it was going to be a little bit of a red wedding situation. I'm not surprised we lost all these guys that we did. I even forgot Ray was a free agent, but I was not surprised that we didn't retain him, given it's a returner, and we drafted Ronnie Bell. And then I hope Sam Darnold does very well with the Vikings. It looks like he's going to be the starter there, which, yeah, no, hopefully he goes better than Mitch Trubisky with the Steelers. Or with the Bills, or whichever one he went to try to be a starter. But yeah, no, I just looking at these guys that we lost, Armstead obviously is the one that stands out to me the most. We did our longest tenured player, like I said. He was a man of the year 4 or 5 consecutive years in a row with us. So we loved him off the field. And when he was on the field, he was low-key underrated. He did have the 10-sack Pro Bowl season in 2019 and never made the Pro Bowl again. But he was just one of those sneaky guys to me that was excellent in the run game. Never had the sack numbers he had after 2019, but he just was a presence in the locker room, and he was not a guy that you ignored if you were a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator. So hopefully we can replace him. It's much harder in the locker room to replace a guy like that, but hopefully on the field we have somebody that can complement him next to Javon Hargrave. And I don't know, any name stick out in particular to you guys? Any real big surprises on here other than probably we're all shocked by Arik being released?
I mean, I was surprised that they go with Sam Darnold, just because it's like, who's the backup quarterback? And I guess we trade. It's like a trade with the Vikings. We'll get to the signings, but yeah, you guys got Josh Dobbs. They got Sam Darnold. Basically, just switch quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks, because I don't think Sam Darnold will probably be the starter week 1. I think the Vikings are going to end up making a trade to get up in the top 10 to get a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of play off of what you just said there, James, really quick. I don't think the per se necessarily lost Sam Darnold. I think the Vikings just put a bunch of money in Sam Darnold's pocket, and we weren't going to at all pay that kind of money to keep him around. I mean, they gave him a $10 million guaranteed deal, and that's just not something that we were going to pay for a backup quarterback. So I don't blame.
We paid our new backup quarterback, who we'll say in a minute. We're paying him $2.5 million.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think it was necessarily a question of, he's on the lost list, but I don't necessarily feel like we necessarily wasn't that we kind of tossed him out or whatever. I think it was just somebody came along with fatter pockets, and I don't blame him for leaving for, what he made $3 or $4 million with us last year. He made over double that going to the Vikings this year, and does have an opportunity to start, which he wasn't going to have here in San Francisco. So don't blame him for that at all either. Don't blame the 49ers for that. In terms of Eric Armstead, I think what he brought off the field and probably in the locker room as a leader and a person and a man on that team was probably more important than what he brought on the field. Dan, you pointed out he had that 10-sack season in 2019. Really outside of that season, he hasn't done a whole lot on the field, to be honest. His next highest sack season is 6. Outside of that, he's got a bunch of 2.5, 3 sack seasons. If I look back at just his last 2 years, he's played a total of 21 games out of 34 that he could have played for us over the last 2 seasons. And he's had 5 sacks and 38 total tackles. That's not really great numbers over the last 2 seasons for the amount of money that he was getting, which I tried to look up his contract and I can't break it down per year, but on average, he was getting $17 million a season. So we were paying $34 million on average over the last 2 seasons for 5 sacks and 38 tackles. Not really impressed with that. Don't think that's a really good value for the money. So I don't really think it's going to be really hard to replace his on-field production with who we brought in. We'll talk about him here in a little bit once we get to that part of your slide. His presence in the locker room, sure. I think there's something to that, but I think we have a lot of other really good, strong leadership in the locker room that we can overcome that. I don't think it'll be that big of a loss. I think actually, when I look at all the people that we're missing on here, I think Ray kind of sticks out to me a little bit. Our special teams unit, when he's not out there, as we saw when he missed a handful of games this season, when they had Ronnie Bell back there, fielding kicks and punts, was really sketchy. He did not do a fantastic job back there when he was back there filling in for Ray. Maybe with another year under his belt and another off season of practice of doing this, he'll be a lot better at it. But especially that ability to just be sure hands back there and field punts and punts mostly. No one really catches kicks anymore. But to be able to field punts in a sure-handed fashion, I don't even necessarily really care about return yards, because when's the last time you saw a guy actually return a punt for any reasonable, a touchdown or anything like that? That doesn't even seem to happen anymore. But just know, what'd you say?
Maybe for the 49ers, but it happens around in the league. And
yeah, I mean, for us, it hasn't happened in eternity. But I mean, I just want a guy back there that I know that when they kick it, he's going to catch the damn thing and not muff it, right? So I didn't feel very confident with
that's
running.
Not Debo.
Yeah, I don't want Debo taking. I feel fine with Debo catching it, but I don't want Debo taking the extra hits or the licks from being back there. So they either need to bring Ronnie Bell up to speed on catching those, or maybe they're gonna draft another receiver or potentially sign another free agent here later in the offseason to a minor deal or whatever, and get a guy that can field punts or something like that. But that kind of sticks out as really kind of the bigger loss to me out of all these. It kind of sucks that we lost Darnold. I mean, I know that I crapped on him a lot through the rest of the podcasts that we had last season and stuff like that, but he did seem to fill the role as a solid backup quarterback, and I preferred him over who we just signed to be the backup quarterback. So I think our backup quarterback situation has gotten worse than what we had last season. But again, they offered him double and a half the money to walk away. So I don't blame him for not staying.
Yeah. The we weren't going to pay. To add on to our just one last thing, that I agree that if he wasn't injured so much, maybe could have been a little more flexible with him. But Yeah, the injuries are really we're not going to pay a guy that's going to be injured with a knee or plantar fasciitis for half the season anymore. And then I mean,
and he played the game right. I mean, we asked him to take a pay cut. He said no. He went and he got the exact same amount of money that he was supposed to get from the Jaguars. So I mean, like, he left the team that he's always been with and left the West Coast. He went to Florida. He doesn't have to pay taxes on his money now. So good for him and all that stuff. So I mean, monetarily, he made the right choice. Did he make the right choice in terms of getting to the Super Bowl and winning a ring for himself? Probably not. But, he made the right choice monetarily, so good for him.
Well,
same with Javon Kinlaw. We weren't going to pay a guy that's always injured, so that's why we let Javon go.
Yeah.
So Armstead was drafted in 2015?
15 or 14.
15.
So was Balky the GM when that happened?
Should have been, yeah.
Yep, he was the last Balky pick we still had.
Sense if he went to the Jaguars then, I guess. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So
Bulky's not really great about signing people to good contracts either, so that also makes sense.
yeah.
It's all part of the course.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, you just one last time before I change it. You nailed it with Ray. It's hopefully Ronnie. I mean, he was a rookie. Let's give him a little slack, but at the same time, no, the sure hands of Ray and his upside is really good. But again, you're a returner. The payout for those big returns is getting worse and worse every year. The only other two I have any 2 cents on is Oren Burks. We saw him get lit up in the Super Bowl, and we already have 3 players that are special teams aces, which is really what his bread and butter was. So I wasn't surprised we let him go when we kept his counterpart, George Odom, and then Chase Young. We've gone 15 minutes and not said anything about Chase Young. He wasn't worth the money. I don't know what else there is to really say about him other than he wasn't really worth the money with the production we got out of him.
Did something dumb. Like they are the epitome of doing dumb stuff.
Maybe if we got more than half a season out of him, but with the contract that he got from the Saints, no, he wasn't worth it in that regard because we were not going to pay him $13 billion.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the exact same situation as Sam Darnold, right? I mean, somebody came in with a truckload of money and dumped it on him, and it was like, okay, well, someone's going to be stupid enough to pay you that much money. Bye, see you later. Go enjoy your money. We would gladly have kept you for a more reasonable amount, but we're not going to overpay you and give you $13 million guaranteed. Remember, I told you guys in the team chat, they're going to pay about $6.5 million a sack for him next season. He's got that neck injury. Why are you paying a guy with a neck injury? He's not even going to be ready for training camp now.
Well, you're talking about a team that gave up 5 draft picks to draft Chris Olave, and one of those draft picks is now Jalen Carter. This is how dumb the Saints are.
What's their GM's name again? Remind me.
Mickey Loomis, right?
Yeah.
Oh, God bless Mickey Loomis.
And here's the thing: like people don't remember this, but Mickey Loomis was tapping into opposing teams' headsets during Saints games while they were in the Superdome.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Talk about the Patriots and stuff, but nobody talks about Mickey Loomis and what he did. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
So they're dumb. Yeah. The New Orleans franchise is dumb.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any other? I feel like I hogged the 2 cents with Chase and Oren there. Did you guys have any other last before I flip it here? Any thoughts on Javon, like Eric? Our first round bust that could never be healthy.
No, I mean, to me, all the rest of these guys are just filler guys that, I mean, we should be able to, based on the signings, when you flip to that page on the next one, I mean, those guys that we signed will fill all of these roles just fine, in my opinion.
One can only hope. And here we are, gentlemen. These are the players that we retained and the players that we have signed off the street. I will just hone in on the re-signed because I'm always excited to see who we end up retaining because they usually sign super team-friendly contracts. Just John convincing them to sign cheap deals, but then again, we are against the cap. So who did we end up keeping? The names that stick out to me the most, Colton McKivitz is going to be back as our right tackle. Juwan Jennings, allegedly, I didn't see a source that I trusted versus just fans, but allegedly he has signed his second round tender, which is worth just shy of $5 million. So basically a 1 year, $5 million deal. We brought back safety and special team ace George Odom on a 2 year, almost $11 million deal. Kevin Givens, we just can't quit. We brought him back. DFF, another special teamer, we brought him back. Feliciano, I got so excited for because he was so much better than Burford as guard on the right side. So we re-signed our right side basically between Feliciano and McKivitz. But yeah, no, nothing else particularly splashy outside of us super fans that anybody would care about besides Juwan Jennings when he made his name known in the Super Bowl. But I don't know, any of these like outright re-signed people that get you extra excited?
I mean, I do like Juwan Jennings. I do like him. I like the way he goes about the game, and sometimes during the games it's like, okay, you need a big catch on third down to get a first down, and who's it end up being? Yeah, third and Juwan. So definitely a guy that I think is a good third wide receiver in the league, and when, like I said, you can have him on there on third downs, and he'll go to the sticks and get you a first down. Like, so I like the Juwan Jennings re-signing the most.
Yeah, I completely concur with you, James. I think the Juwan Jennings signing is great. I think he fills a lot of roles for us in terms of what he does on the field. He's a fantastic and just ferocious blocker. He's a bit of an antagonizer, so I like that aspect that he brings to the team as well. I think pretty much every game he gets under somebody's skin on the other team and, just gets them irritated in some way, shape, or form. So I really like that aspect. He obviously is able to play in the slot. He's able to play on the outside. As we've seen when Debo's been hurt, we've been able to plug him in as that second receiver and to fill that gap as well. So he's clearly got the brains to understand, the route tree between the slot versus being on the outside as well, and have that versatility, which I think is wonderful for our offense, again, because we're predicated on being able to put people in all sorts of different spots and places, wherever. He can't run like Debo does. We tried that in the Eagles game the one time and put him back there. That didn't go so well. But otherwise, I mean, he's just great. He seems like he fits in well with the team. Seems like the team really loves having him around. So, I mean, I think that's fantastic. And I hope that, Dan, your rumor sites that you saw are true, and he really is going to sign that tender and come back. And I think that, he hasn't really made a lot of money so far being in the league. So I think $5 million.
This is worth more than all the other contracts that he signed, I believe.
Yeah, it is. And so I think that's great to see him get that kind of money and sort of finally come up on a paycheck that sort of rewards him for being in the league for a few years and playing the game right and doing what he does. So I think that's a great signing.
He was a 7th round draft pick with a restricted tag on him. I don't know how you get or don't get restricted, but to be a 7th round draft pick and now you're signing a restricted tender worth a 2nd rounder, even though the numbers on paper don't necessarily back it up. I'm so thrilled for him too, because he absolutely deserves it with the presence that he brings to the field, even if the numbers don't necessarily show it.
Well, I would ask you, I mean, if you could take Juwan Jennings for $5 million or spend the 2nd round draft pick trying to find a third wide receiver, which would you rather take?
If I was another GM, I would let the Niners keep us because I would let the Niners keep Juwan. We're clearly comfortable paying him $5 million and feel that he earns it. And a 2nd rounder for somebody that only had like 300 receiving yards technically last year, that's a lot of money and a big draft pick to give up for him for the other guys. So we kind of set it up pretty good for us since we're comfortable giving him the $5 million. And if not, we get a 2nd round pick. Like, yeah, let's see. And so far, it looks like no one else thinks that he's worth that, which is good for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you pose a really great question there, James. I think it works out well for both sides there. And Dan, to your point, if I'm another team on the outside, I'm not giving up a 2nd round pick for Juwan Jennings. He hasn't shown me enough over his last 3 years. I just went and looked at his stats. His stats are not very great overall. I mean, they don't do anything to stand out spectacularly from a numbers perspective.
On paper, he looks like a 7th-round draft pick.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would definitely take my chances with just shooting my shot on a 2nd-round receiver in the draft over picking him up. But from a 49ers perspective, what I know about him and what I feel about him and what I know that he brings to the team and the fact that he already knows the team and he knows the offense and everything like that, he's now worth the $5 million to me. So, I mean,
And it's a 1-year flyer.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a really good setup, I think, on both ends in that perspective that, like you said, if I was the outside looking in, there's no way I would spend a 2nd-round pick on him. But from the 49ers perspective, would I want to use my 2nd-round pick on an unknown receiver and try to fill the Juwan Jennings hole, or just pay him $5 million? I'd rather just pay him $5 million because I know what I have.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't
For
agree
sure.
more. I don't know. I was geeking over the Feliciano trade. Was there anyone else on here that stood out to you guys? Like, I guess targeted at more Eric, the other super fan. If any other of these excited you a little bit before we get to the real treat of this list.
I mean, I like the Feliciano signing. I think that he did really good when he came in this past season. I think that he played really well. He kind of came in as a fill-in role, and I don't think that people had a lot of expectations for him, and he ended up becoming a starter. So I think that was a really good signing on their part. I guess initially, I'll say I was a little disappointed that we resigned McKivitz because I was expecting them to try to do a little something better on the right side of the line. I mean, Dan, you and I think we talked pretty extensively about it on one of the pods that I really wanted to see them do something for the right tackle perspective so we could unlock Kittle from that right tackle position a little bit more frequently versus having to have him come in and help like he seems to have to do a lot of times. So I guess I would have rather that we somehow spent that $7 million on, I guess, what I would have envisioned as something better. But I don't know the landscape. I don't know the market. I don't know, kind of what's out there. So maybe they didn't feel there was that opportunity and this was what they could do. So it wasn't that McKivitz was bad. I just would have liked them to have been better.
Yeah, there's definitely room for improvement.
Well, definitely. And a 1-year, $7 million deal really isn't that much. And, we'll talk about it next month about how the 49ers need tackle help and how the draft is, from what I hear, deep in, tackles. So that could have been something like, we're going to put this guy in here. We're going to go out and maybe draft a guy with a 1st or 2nd round pick, give him competition, and then see who wins the battle,
Yeah, could be that you may be 100% right there, James. I to your point, I honestly hope that's the case. I hope that they're going to go out and draft a right tackle and throw him out there and be like, look, let's see what happens and see who wins that battle. And hopefully something good comes of that. And it either raises McKivitz's level of play and turns him into a better right tackle, or the kid that we draft turns out to be a real stud on the right side. I hope that's the case.
Yeah. And, in 2017, the Eagles were lucky that they had backup linemen who could block, and that's, you can never have enough linemen.
No.
And so, yeah, I think.
Speaking of linemen.
So
on the other side of the ball. But no, finish what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so just that sort of 1-year, $7 million contract leads me to think that they're looking towards the draft to draft somebody probably, 1st, 2nd, maybe 3rd round that has some promise and can compete with McKivitz. Otherwise, if they really thought McKivitz was the answer, we talking about a couple $1 million over a couple of years, and if they were really confident in him. But 1 year, $7 million, that's pretty much like, okay, we're going to get a guy here and compete with you and see who wins the battle. That's sort of me.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I could definitely see it going like that. So then I guess with that, our most exciting names, the best for last. These are the gentlemen that we signed straight up off the street. And you might notice a little bit of a trend because I wrote these in the as I found them out. So I'll just start from the bottom and up. Our first big signing was Leonard Floyd to a big 2-year, $20 million contract. And then we signed Yatir Gross-Matos from the Panthers to an almost identical deal. Another defensive lineman, Jordan Elliott, 2 years for 10. Then Malik Collins. So a lot of defensive line help. And then we'll pretend that we didn't have a JK from a potentially better linebacker, but we did end up signing Devondre Campbell from the Packers, which honestly was not a bad consolation prize. I no shade towards the gentleman whom I will not name on this podcast. But then we signed 2 corners, Chase Lucas and Isaac Yadam. And then we signed a lineman, Brandon Parker. And then the Pasternaut himself, quarterback Joshua Dobbs, came to us from the Vikings.
Now, Dan, did you intend to make that OB, or is that mistaken? You wanted to make it QB?
Oh, yep, nope. That I meant to make that QB, and that is a screen grab, so I cannot change that.
So, like, because I was thinking like that meant, oh boy, Joshua Dobbs. You know?
Well, we were more excited than Eric. Like, I was not mad at the signing. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, we know that. I think people know on this show, Eric does not like Joshua Dobbs.
I think he has a 3-game shelf life personally, but
yeah,
in terms of somebody that's not supposed to be on the field versus he was with Arizona and Minnesota, I think so long as Purdy stays healthy, we're going to be okay.
Yeah. And I think Josh Dobbs could win you like 2 games if you needed it. You know, if he goes in there for 4, I think he can come out with 2 wins. You know, I mean, he's in Shanahan's system. This is another guy in Shanahan's system. And, you know, if they're going to lose Sam Darnold to a bunch of money, I mean, why not give Josh Dobbs a try? He won a couple of games last year on 2 different teams, you know, and so
he's not a bad quarterback.
He's definitely not bad as a backup quarterback. Yeah, I mean,
but saying you're not a bad backup is like saying you're the best kid on JV. Like, no, he does. He did. You could see flashes of good things with him. I'll say that. Like he did make some really good throws, but man, when he was done, he was done.
yeah. I mean, he does have, like you said, Dan, he has a shelf life. It's probably about 3-4 games. That's about it. That's when he's done. And but I mean, that how I mean, I don't know. I mean, you do need to invest in backup quarterback in the league, and I don't know what was out there. Joe Flacco? Did you want Joe Flacco or?
Well, I mean,
I'd have taken Flacco over Dobbs.
Well, yeah, I would have taken Flacco over Dobbs too. But you guys are leading down the path of the point to make there is that a lot of those guys that we kind of looked at and talked about that I think would have been better backup quarterbacks got a lot more money than we paid for Dobbs. I mean, Flacco signed a big deal to play wherever he played. Minshew went to the Raiders and he's vying for a starter's job, which okay, good luck up there. I mean, I don't know what the Raiders are doing.
I mean, isn't he just like the perfect guy though for Vegas? Like he just looks like a Vegas guy, you know, just especially when he grows like a mustache and like
dude, pulling up his RV to the Sphere. Like, come on.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of those guys, you know, like Tyrod Taylor and Jacoby Brissett, like a lot of those guys that I think would have made really great backup quarterbacks. They just went for a lot of money. So, I mean, it just became a numbers game that we weren't going to be able to afford them. And so, I mean, we're kind of left with, like, to me, the consolation prize. You get a Josh Dobbs, who I'll agree with you, Dan, I think is good for a couple of games at best before people kind of figure out what it is that he can or can't do. And I guess I'm not 100% sure that the league just hasn't figured out what he can't do as a whole and kind of maybe has the book on him. Maybe in the Shanahan offense, Kyle can hide him. I mean, Kyle's hidden things from other QBs that we've had in the past and made them look good. So maybe he can prop Dobbs up for a couple of weeks if he had to get him through some games. I'm just going to pray to the gods that we don't ever have to see him on the field. So that's my plan there. You know, I'm really excited about the 2 big names on the list. Leonard Floyd, I think, is a great get for us. That's a great compliment on the side opposite of Bosa. I saw a lot of people talking about, you know, the year we had D Ford opposite Bosa and how that was, you know, quite the impactful defensive line when we had those two guys out there, even though
3
Ford,
games that he was healthy.
yeah. But it really made a difference. I mean, they were a great combination when they were both out there. And Leonard Floyd has durability. And that's something that, you know, I've talked a lot about on the show, is that if I'm going to pay guys a bunch of money, which Floyd's not really getting a ton of money, to be honest, 2 years, 20 million isn't a ton of money for a defensive end by any stretch of the imagination. But, you know, I want to pay a guy that's going to be durable and be out there. And Floyd doesn't miss games. And then Malik Collins is the other guy that they're bringing in to essentially replace Eric Armstead. I looked up his contract. His contract is 2 years, $23 million.
He signed him to that big a contract?
Yeah.
Whoa. Dang.
But so that's basically, what is it, $11.5 million a year. So that's a discount from what we were paying Armstead. And yeah. And I mean, I won't at all be surprised if we're sitting here and Malik Collins has numbers that are just as good as Armstead's, and if not better. And I'm going to say better because he probably plays all 16, 17 games next season, whereas Armstead wasn't going to do that. So I think that's going to end up being a really good signing for them as well.
His learning curve should not be anything because of the wide 9 front that not Dewey. He looks like
D'Amico.
Dewey. No, Cleveland, because we got Malik from Cleveland.
Oh, Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, I called him Dewey because he looks like Dewey. But no, Schwartz runs a wide 9 like we do. So the plug and play for him at defensive tackle, like there should not be any learning curve.
Well, Malik played in Texans for the last couple of years, so he played under D'Amico last year.
Oh, did I get him mixed up with Elliott? Oh, yeah. Elliott was with Cleveland.
Yeah, Elliott was with Cleveland. So I'm confused about the Yadier Gross Matos signing. I don't really get that one in particular. I'm not really sure why we paid that guy a whole bunch of money because his stats were rather unimpressive. I mean, I know we can always use more defensive ends, but I guess I would have thought we could have probably found some other guys that were.
Let's use the caveat that he was with the Panthers. Let's just give him the give him the benefit of the doubt that he was on a bad team.
Yeah, but I mean, there's been plenty of guys that were on bad teams, but were still really great at their particular positions. And
you mean Brian Burns?
Yeah, yeah, and got themselves out of there. So I don't know. He doesn't seem to do anything from a statistical perspective. I mean, clearly I didn't watch a lot of Panthers games to, really do an in-depth analysis on him, but
that's because they were boring.
Yeah. The one Panthers game I did watch, which I had a lot of money invested in, he didn't do anything that stuck out to me. So, but
yeah, I couldn't find much on this guy either, other than he had 4 sacks last year. So I don't know. Our defensive line coach must have made a really good pitch for him. So I don't know. I'm with you on this one too. This seems like a lot of money for a guy with like 10 sacks in 4 years.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I don't really understand what we're doing with that. The rest of these guys are kind of like, I said with the guys that we sort of lost. These guys are just sort of like plug and play guys. I don't really get the cornerbacks. I looked up a lot of those guys. Those guys seem like they're just sort of like cast-offs from teams that nobody wanted. I think the one guy from the Lions had played like 2 games in 3 years and had like 1 tackle. I mean, he's done like nothing. So I don't really know what we expect to get out of them. Hopefully, with the changes that we've made defensively, coaching wise, we can coach them up and turn them into something. Who really knows? But I still see cornerback as being a position of need for us in the draft, and hope that we're able to do something there as well.
That's going to definitely be it'll be a need, because we're not going to re-sign everybody. Like if we just look strictly at Ward is technically in a contract year this year. And then everyone is Ward and Thomas and Lador. They're basically all in contract years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the draft is another thing that, cornerback is very heavy in this draft this year. So another place where they're probably going to be looking for corner help in the draft. And that's probably what they're looking to, because like you guys says, those names do not jump off the paper, so they may even just be camp bodies. They may not even be on the roster week 1. And so, just to, give somebody who, is coming in there as a draft pick, giving them a little competition and seeing how they do against, guys that have been in the league, even though they're not very good players, but you have something to measure them by saying like, oh, well, he does that better than that guy. So, yeah, they're probably just camp bodies. They probably won't even be on the roster week 1.
Yeah, I'm just a little concerned from that perspective because, and I'll tee this up for you, James, in terms of GMs and drafting capabilities and stuff like that, because I know you love to go to bat for your guy Howie. We're either 100% on our draft picks or we're 0 on our draft picks. We don't ever get a guy who we're like, oh, that guy's pretty good. He does like a pretty decent job for us. We either get a guy who's a superstar or we just get guys that suck. So, I mean,
but you got to understand that's the draft. That's the draft. Like, that's every GM goes through that. It's not like Howie doesn't pick bad players. He can't pick a wide receiver after the first round. Like, and even in the first round, sometimes he gets that wrong. Like the Justin Reagor over Justin Jefferson,
Honestly, our batting average, I think, is outweighed by the fact that by the people that we did hit on are all pros, like Fred Warner and George Kittle and
Purdy.
Dre Greenlaw Greenlaw should have been at least a second team all pro last year or 2 years ago. Purdy, like it's unbelievable when we do hit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, good GMs hit, and it's not like John hasn't hit, and Howie's hit just as much as he hasn't hit. I mean, nobody gets it 100% right.
You drafted Aguilar, right?
What's that?
You drafted Aguilar, right?
I mean, we drafted Aguilar, yeah, and basically he couldn't catch a ball until 2017, where he caught everything and then went back to not catching balls again. Like. Yeah.
I guess I would just like a little bit more comfort in, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like if we draft a quarterback, we're either going to draft like the next Deion Sanders or we're going to draft, the next like bum who can't defend anybody. And it's just like, I wish we had somebody else, wish we had signed somebody else in free agency that I could be like, oh, well, even if our draft pick doesn't hit, we've got this guy. Whereas now I feel like there's this pressure, like, we've got to get a draft pick in here and he's got to be like probably a starter, or else we're going to have this hole on that side that is going to concern me all season long. Cause I don't know about Thomas playing all season long.
There's still players out there that haven't signed yet it's shocking they haven't signed yet. Like Gilmore hasn't signed yet. White hasn't signed yet. So we might be able to get a flyer off of somebody that way. There could be a midseason trade. There could be the draft. Like it's, not that you're doom and gloom, but like it's kind of 3D chess where like, okay, we're just trying to interpret what their strategy is, because clearly where we thought we could have got a great corner in that first week of free agency, they didn't. They focused on the defensive line, and we got Devondre Campbell to be a replacement for Greenlaw for at least the first half of the season, depending on how his Achilles goes. Like that was their focus on the established veterans. So now we're left hanging with, okay, well, what's the strategy now? Clearly we're trying to bide somebody really cheap, like extra cheap, by making them wait for a contract, or more likely we're definitely going in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably right, Dan. I mean, yeah, I guess there are still guys out there that we could potentially get and maybe get on the cheap who decide that they want to chase a ring instead of chase money. So I mean, maybe that's a possibility.
if they're not signed by the draft, they will.
Yeah.
I was just going to shrink that and make this back to us. There we go. But yeah, no, even though I just took that down, I don't know. Neither of you were clearly as excited about Devondre Campbell as I was. He was an all-pro just a couple of years ago, and I don't know. I was happy that we looked for an established veteran to fill in that void for Dre Greenlaw, even just for 2 months. Like we estimated, if it goes very well, he should be back in November.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, to be honest, Greenlaw gets hurt all the time too, because he flies around like a Scud missile out there. I mean, he's always like crashing into everything. I mean, he hits like a rocket ship. So I mean, like, it's not going to at all hurt to have another guy out there that we can pull out that's a good player and a former All-Pro to be able to put out on the field when Greenlaw gets hurt, or heaven forbid Warner gets hurt. God, don't let that happen.
No.
But that's not a bad thing in any way, shape, or form. So I mean, I am excited about that. I guess I just tend to focus more on guys that I know are going to be on the field and going to be playing, as projected starters on a regular basis, because they're going to have that impact sort of every time and every day.
Well, just like Floyd. Like, no, Floyd deserves all the hype. Like, he was our first big signing, and that on paper should be an amazing compliment to Bosa. And it wasn't. He's getting money, but we didn't break the bank for him either.
No.
Like, it probably helps that he's 31, but no, you're right. When I looked at him, he hasn't missed a game in like 4 years. So now he's going to tear his Achilles in training camp.
Well, I like the quote that they said. Did you guys see the reason they said he signed with the 49ers?
Mm-mm.
They said they approached him with an offer and they didn't earmuffs bullshit around about the money, and that was why he decided to come here. So,
Nice.
I was like, all right, I can respect that. So
I mean, with the cap going up $30 million, there were a lot of teams that weren't earmuffs bullshitting with the money. Like, it just
a lot of guys got paid. That, well, I mean, we talked a lot about it. We talked a lot about it in the text chat, that it was just like, why are they paying that guy that much money? I mean,
instead of $12 million, it went up $30 million. That's why.
Yeah, it was a big jump, and so people got paid, and that's what happened. Everybody had extra money to spend, and the guys who wanted somebody just said, "You want to come here? Here, we'll overpay you just so you can come here." Instead of going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's basically what it was.
That's insane. Well, I think with the time that we're at, and I know one of us has a hard out. If anyone else, unless anyone else had a final thought that they wanted to say before we talk about our sponsor.
I guess my final thought would just be I guess I would say that I don't know that we got better in free agency, but I don't think that we got overall worse, I guess, would be my overall thought on things. I think that we kind of just kept the ship kind of going along, and the players that we lost, we kind of replaced with people that we brought in that were either equivalent or just as good, or maybe a little cheaper or whatever. But I think we kind of just kept things steady as she goes. We have this really great core of all pros at a lot of the other main key positions. And a lot of these guys are kind of just filling in the gaps around. And I think we did a good job with doing that. And so I don't feel like we took any steps backwards. I don't know that we got drastically better, maybe with Floyd, I hope. He should definitely be an improvement over Chase Young, what we were doing on that side. So I guess that would be where I would hope to see the biggest improvement overall. But at least I don't think we went backwards.
Yeah, I agree with the financial strains that we have, which is funny thinking 6 years ago when John was giving money to everybody. I think we're walking the tightrope fine. We'll see if Yatir plays up to his contract, but no, I don't think we got worse. I think we stayed stable. Stable's a really good way to put it. I think because we still have a lot of these great core players that were locked up. Now it's just trying to fill in the gaps with everyone else. And we got stars across a lot of positions. It's not like we lopsided it, so to say. I feel like we have an equal amount on offense and defense. So the guys that we got look really good, and then I mean, it's not like we were riding or dying on free agency, but I like what we could. I like what we did with what we could do.
Yeah, still got to sign Ayuk.
Yeah. James, did you have any thoughts before I talk about our sponsor?
Just that now it's on to the draft, I think, and so we think we have an idea now where the 49ers will be looking. So hopefully they can fill those needs and get some top talent at the college level into their system.
Yep, I agree. I think with that, guys, our sponsor, who appears to still be sponsoring us going into next season, RoyalRetros.com. What is Royal Retros? It is your go-to place to go get yourself an authentic throwback jersey, whether you're a football fan or a fan of any other sport. They got basketball, soccer, baseball. You can go there and get yourself a jersey. For us 49ers fans, though, and Bay Area fans, they have a candlestick collection up there right now that is curated with the Bay Area in mind. So when you find something nice that you like, use the promo code Shady Sports when you check out. It'll get you 10% off of your entire cart, your entire order. Again, it's promo code Shady Sports when you check out for 10% off of your entire order. It helps us out. It helps our parent company, Shady Sports, out. Again, use Shady Sports for your promo code when you check out and get 10% off of your order at royalretros.com. Go get yourself an authentic throwback jersey today. James, we had our community center on, or that's not, we had our wonderful guest on that we've been trying to raise money for. Tell the people about it. Tell them that they can still buy shirts.
All right, guys. If you watched Monday's show or Tuesday's show, you saw that we have our charity that we are donating the money to. It's Mountain Care Management Center in Kentucky. They help victims of sexual violence recover and get them on their feet again and back into a healthy and happy mental mindset. So to do that, and the reason why we're doing that is because the Houston Texans minority owner was charged with very serious sexual crimes in Kentucky, and the NFL knew about it for 3 months and did no reporting until independent reporting agencies did. And we know from looking at the news recently with Dak Prescott, Dallas police found out Tuesday, and we knew like the next day or the day after what was going on without even any charges being pressed or any real investigation underway. So we believe that owner standards are less than player standards when it comes to reporting some of the things that they've been doing in society that aren't really good or newsworthy due to the level of crime that it may be doing, or just sexual offenses seem to be rampant sometimes, and the fact that a Houston Texans minority owner was charged with very serious sexual crimes and the NFL knew about it for 3 months, while Dak Prescott, we knew about it 1 day later and the charges weren't even pressed. There was nothing going on seriously with a criminal investigation right at that moment. So what we're doing is we're selling t-shirts to help this organization out and to bring awareness. So the first one is owner standards are less than player standards, #owner accountability. $22.99 get you that in a t-shirt. We got that in different colors, different sizes, different styles. Any shirt, $22.99 t-shirt, all of them. Pick one up, donate the charity today. Our next one is our podcast logo art. You'll find this on our YouTube channel, our podcast logo on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can get it on a t-shirt, $22.99, or we have different styles, different sizes. Next up, we have our alternate logo t-shirt. I have this t-shirt, very high quality, $22.99, get you that in a t-shirt, or we have different colors, different sizes as well, and different styles. And finally, last but not least, how can you say no to our mascot, a peanut eating peanuts while cheering on the San Francisco 49ers? Guys, $22.99, get you that in a t-shirt today. Donate to charity. All the proceeds go to Mountain Care Management Center in Kentucky. And we don't want any of it. Just go to bonfire.com, Niner Nuts Apparel. Get your t-shirt today.
Yeah, I'll be sure to add their website into the show notes, as well as the link to Bonfire. So, yeah, with that, that is all we got for today. Next week is another bye week for us. Hopefully you all are enjoying March Madness going on right now. That's really the only thing that's going on in the news right now anyway, now that free agency's kind of calmed down and we're all trying to figure out what to do for the draft. I guess real quick, I know Eric is the one that has the hard out, but if we all picked a Final Four, I can just say mine real quick. I picked Wisconsin and Purdue because I want 2 Big Tens represented in there, even though they would play each other because of the way the bracket's set up. And then on the other side, I have Dayton, just because I don't know. I got a good feeling when I was looking at Dayton. And then I'm cheering for Iowa State too because of Purdy's alma mater. But if I want one of those 4 teams to win, Purdue. My aunt and uncle live in Lafayette, and Purdue's been one of the best basketball teams over the past couple years now, and it'd be kind of cool to see an NCAA trophy just come to the state. I know I'm an IU house. I'm sorry, Mom, but it'd be cool. And I am still IU at heart, but I mean, honestly, if Purdue won, it would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
What do you got, James?
All right, let me take a look at my list. So my final 4 teams are Iowa State because their mascot is a cyclone, and I think cyclones are pretty destructive. St. Mary's, Gales. That's I have a very good affiliate, primitive. Well, I have a very intimate relationship with the Holy Mother, St. Mary. I believe that she was immaculate, perpetual virgin. And these are her Gaels, or their Gaelic people who follow or pray to her. And so they would be quite a force to be reckoned with, I think. Everybody knows I'm very spiritual. And so I like the St. Mary Gaels to go to the Final Four. Next, I have TCU, the Horned Frogs. It's a unique nickname. I can't find anywhere else where anybody's named a horned frog. And they're very aggressive frogs. So I think they're pretty good. And we have Houston, and they're called the Cougars. But not only because after a cat, they also have the highest population of divorced women in the state of Texas. So I think those Cougars would defeat the Horned Frogs.
So to recap, you have Cougars defeating Horny Frogs.
Yes.
Zach Wilson will be having a watch party wherever he is. Oh, that's amazing. I love that.
I have the Cougars taking down the Horny Frogs, and I have St. Mary's Gales taking down the Cyclones because I think the Gales would just build like a round castle or whatever, and the Cyclone would just hit it into it and it would decimate. It wouldn't do anything. So my final round is St. Mary's versus the Houston Cougars. Oh yeah. So talk to the wife about this. Gales are pretty tough. Pretty tough people. They held off the Roman Empire so much that they walled them inside of Scotland. So yeah, we're going with St. Mary Gales to win it all.
The St. Mary Gales to win it all. That is an amazing pick. I don't think that I can do justice to any of that.
I'm just going with the hometown team. I love your argument for St. Mary's. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Eric, who's your Final Four, real quick?
My Final Four is not nearly as exciting or as fun as Cougars and Horny Frogs fighting each other. And Cyclones and Gales and everything like that. I've got Auburn. I can't even talk now. I'm so frazzled. Yeah, I'm so frazzled. I sound like Charles Barkley. I got
Auburn.
Yeah, I know. I got Auburn and Arizona on the one side coming out going against each other. I actually really just think both those teams are high quality teams. I will confess that I do actual brackets for money, so my heart is a little bit tied to the monetary aspects of the bracketing versus what you guys may have been doing. And then on the other side, I've got Houston and Purdue. So I've got Cougars versus very large trains, I guess, on the other side. And then in the final, I've got Houston versus Auburn. With the Cougars and their divorced ways coming out on top. So I guess a Cougar versus a Tiger. I guess a Cougar wins. I guess that's how that comes out. So That's what I've got going on there. So we'll see how that shakes out.
Yeah, we'll see how this all works out in the next
Yeah.
couple of months and see.
James, if St. Mary ends up coming out winning, you're going to look like an absolute genius.
I know, just because I like Mother Mary.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, if you put $5 on them last week, what that payout would have been like.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, they haven't played yet, so you could still put $5 on St. Mary's to win and probably still make yourself a handsome amount of money.
What seed are they, real quick? I know we got to go,
they're
but
a
what's
fifth seed. They're a 5th seed.
Yeah. So,
Oh, I thought you were.
That's not a bad seed.
Oh, okay, I thought you were picking I thought they were a low seed for some reason. I didn't have the
No,
bracket
my
in front
low
of me.
seed was TCU. That's who I went with as my low seed. TCU is a 9 seed.
Oh, okay, well, that's still a pretty decent payout.
Yeah, I mean it's a 5 seed. I thought, okay, 5 seeds can get to the Final Four, and St. Mary's. I mean, Mother Mary, I love her to death, man. If you know anything about Mother Mary, she can literally change Jesus Christ's mind. Like if he doesn't want to do something, she can literally tell him what to do without telling him what to do.
Yeah.
If you read John 2, water in the wine, that's the wedding at Cana, water in the wine. They run out of wine. Mary says to Jesus, do something. He's sort of like, what do you want of me, woman? My time has not yet come. He doesn't want to do it. She just tells the staff, do whatever he says. And the next thing you know, he turns water into wine. Like doesn't even say, Jesus, turn water into wine. She just says, do what he tells you. So he was like, I guess I got to listen to my mom,
Yeah.
and I think that's the message we should convey from the podcast today. Always listen to your mom. Mom, I love you. I know you're watching.
Yes. Me too, Mom. I think with that's a perfect note to end on. I checked the calendar, guys. We're going to be back on April 2nd. No, that's not April Fool's joke. April 2nd, we're going to be back. Next week's a bye week because we're going to be doing that all summer until August. So yeah, with that, enjoy March Madness. Enjoy the weekend, your week off, and yeah, we'll be back on April 2nd.
All right. Anything else you'd like to say, Eric?
I'm good. Peace out.
All right. Outro music, River Road, Justin Muth.
Go Boilermakers.
St. Mary's.
River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long. River Road, where have all the women gone? Have they kissed her hand and waved you bye-bye? Have they thought about crossing your double yellow lines? River Road, they love the way you whine and cry.